So, my friends, we have a rich topic to explore this evening. Actually, some of you, I mean, in the training that we're doing, you'll notice, you know, a strong undercurrent of what you've already learned will be applicable here for this topic. Yeah, I think we'll begin with a lovely guided meditation from Rebecca, just to prep ourselves and settle in. I turn it over to you, Rebecca.
Okay. Thank you, Heath, and thank you for also initiating this experimental workshop, I would say. And I want to really thank everybody for joining. It's an experiment, and it's something new, and it's really a very unique and also not so easy to communicate subject. So let's see how it goes. And I'm absolutely sure that this will be an evening that we create together. So it's a give and take in all directions. And I'm also pretty sure, my idea is that all of you have some taste and some idea, and also some maybe longing or some, you know, interest, curiosity in the direction of non-duality. So this already helps. This is really also like, it's already putting something out there, and then there's this direction set. And we are all in the same situation, and we also have space for sharing later. And Heath, we are not very structured, but we can also take questions in between. Absolutely, I would say.
Sure. When Rebecca and I do workshops, it's pretty free flow.
Yeah, it also suits the subject, I think.
Yeah.
And this is very exciting times we live in, because the subject or the journey or the trajectory from duality to non-duality is almost applicable now. And it's also reaching into science, not only into the ancient science of Buddhist philosophy, which has an excellent framework for this subject, but also into Western science, and also the work that we do in client work, like when we work with people. And it's also therefore connected to what we are learning and practicing in the care training. As we start today with a little different kind of a meditation, I'm inviting you to first check out what is a little bit more comfortable for you right now. This is some little effort we take to really check and ask yourself, what could be more relaxing? Because this is a precondition for whatever work we do. Something that gives you a little bit more comfort. And I'm doing the same thing. I just took a more comfortable seat for myself. And there's different wishes. Sometimes people want to sit very upright with a straight spine. And sometimes being relaxed is more inviting and giving more comfort. And for now, our eyes are open, and we orient through the screen towards each other. And some texts are popping in. And we are seeing someone is going away, someone is coming back, some pictures or videos are closed, and some people are here. Maybe we know most of each other, maybe somebody is new. And then you can also allow your eyes to go let's say, away from the screen and just into the space. No sharp focus, just relax your eyes in a more peripheric view. And see what there is to see. And always have some connection with a quality of softness or a quality of relaxedness. No big effort. This is not an exercise. We just allow things. And then you hear maybe my voice, like with a little lead of what we suggest to do next. And maybe there's other noises. Maybe a little bit further away. Very often, this is how it is for me, when I go to the noises that are more far away, maybe a motorbike, like passing by, like far away, or maybe some refrigerator noise, something like that. The invitation to close your eyes in your own speed feels right. You do it in your own time. You can also keep your eyes open and maybe slowly bring your view, your gaze more towards the ground. So we are moving from outside towards inside. And when your eyes are closed, you can feel your seat, your connection to the ground, the chair you're sitting on. Gravity. There's some pull towards the center. And now maybe you can feel your inner hands, the inside of your hands, the palms, and whatever your hands are touching. And whole hands. And slowly bring your attention to your breathing. You have several options. You can feel it in your chest, maybe in the area of your abdomen, diaphragm, or more in the area of the nose, the nostrils. Like cooler air going in, and maybe a sense of warmth when the air exits your nostrils. Upper lip, face, cheeks, and breath again. And now we bring our awareness more towards the back of the body. Towards the back. Maybe your back is leaning onto something. The back of your torso. And the back of your head. It's almost as if there was a shield behind you. Bring your awareness to this behind us. while the breathing is in front of us. It's almost as if we observe our breath from behind. And now you get a whole body perception, everything. From the feet to the head and to the back. And in your own time, slowly open your eyes. And maybe take a deeper breath and come back into this room. Maybe you want to change your position or move your body a little bit. Super, very nice. So this is, we can talk about this later again, but this was a very simple practice from ancient tantric tradition, where the back of the body, or the perspective from the back of the body towards the front, towards the breath, is a connection between duality and non-duality. So this was like an experiment again. We were experiencing something. And we might refer to this again later. Thank you, Vu.
Beautiful, Rebecca. Thank you. I felt my jaw become like a rubber band. My chin felt like it was resting on my chest. And then at the end, I recognized how tired I actually am. I didn't notice that before. I could have just laid down and taken a nap. I'm wondering, maybe we can do just a little check-in, word check-in to see how everyone is feeling at the moment after Rebecca's little guided. Relieve my headache. Love it. Rested, centered, relaxed. Was tired, now energized. Tired but centered. Lovely. Good, excited and present. Nice. So if I fall asleep, I'll blame it on Rebecca, and she can lead this very interesting topic forward. I'm sure we're in very good hands.
Make me co-host first. No, that's just a joke.
Yeah. So duality, yeah. You know, those terms have become more and more popular. You know, this non-duality term. More so, say, well, some circles are preferring that term to calling things spiritual or spirituality, etc., because of some of the connotations of that. But essentially, that non-duality is, from my perspective, and I'll be very interested in hearing Rebecca's perspective, because we're just exploring this topic right now together and with you guys. So that non-duality really, for me, is describing this more integrated space that human beings can have. And in our work that we're doing in the care training, we've got the human experience, possible experiences, divided into 3 different phases. And that comes from different schools out there in terms of the trauma work, nervous system understanding. Pat Ogden, Steve Hoskinson, these guys have divided the human experience into 3 different phases. And it's super helpful. And so as a backdrop for our students and anyone else who's kind of interested in the care training, this topic really, you know, that the precondition, the idea of precondition of duality for non-duality, it's a real interesting and pretty super important element there. And the reason why that's important, that's what I'm hoping we can explore, is why is it so important? That why is duality so important to non-duality? Whereas we're often kind of hungry and seeking for the non-duality experience. And a lot of times we can just overlook and kind of pole vault over the dual experience as kind of non-essential or too much work, too much effort. But we find, working with the nervous system, that this second phase, the phase 2, duality phase, is very critical for establishing a foundation, a strong foundation in the third phase, which is the non-duality part. And then just to fill in the full spectrum of the experience there, the phase 1 would be a no dualism or no duality at all. And I've shown this. I'm going to share my screen quickly and just give you a quick little diagram here. I hope this shows up. Can you guys see all that?
Yes.
You can see that? Great. So we're using different colors sort of to explain the nervous system in NeuroSystemics. You see this inverted triangle, and it kind of represents our awareness growing in our experience. So at the bottom is that phase 1, where you see dark, kind of it's the light and dark of experience all mixed up into one. So there's no dualism. And that's a kind of an overwhelm experience. So that's why it's written this way. It's just a big mess. And there's also, it's a small slice of triangle, and there's not very much awareness or presence down below. That's our condition in phase 1. And we all enter into that from time to time, for longer times, for shorter times. And then the difference between that phase 1 and phase 2 is this dualism that happens. Very critical. And we start sorting out all this oneness of kind of not really seeing things in their place. Here, we start clearing things up. We start differentiating things. We start focusing and seeing things more clearly. The dark would represent things that are not so appealing to us. And then the light would be things that are appealing to us. So Rebecca was talking about guiding us into what would make this moment more comfortable. So she's already in her guidance helping us clarify phase 2. And more comfort would be this lighter side. And so that helps us move on over into this golden space where there's an integration of light and dark and the oneness, the non-duality piece. So I wanted to show you this, and this is where, you know, the biggest triangle piece, there's lots of awareness, saturation of our experience, and the light and dark have become united, kind of braided together into this one kind of color. And it's really interesting in our work what happens during the work that we do, because actually biologically in phase 2, when there's that transition up into phase 3, the non-duality, there is this, even a physical moving back and forth of these light and dark. And oftentimes you'll see a client kind of rocking back and forth. Well, that's the duality starting to integrate. This is the biology actually bringing those two together. That to me is just astounding. It blows my mind. I don't know. What do you think, Rebecca?
Yeah, very beautiful how you bring it into the context of phase 1, 2, 3. And I so much agree. This is also my experience. And actually, for example, this rocking movement is almost like towards the end of phase 2, almost like this is an option, or it helps to go then towards phase 3. So I wanted to jump a little bit, like make one step back. I can imagine that this is helping the conversation also later to talk a little bit about duality and non-duality. And also I want to point out Vera's comment, no guilty feelings about being tired here. I really like that. This is a so-called perfect precondition to go into the experience that we are also, you know, having together. Feeling not guilty, being relaxed, without effort, no pushing, no pulling. These are preconditions to experience phase 3 or non-duality. So feeling not guilty is actually, we can say, someone who has already, let's say, done trauma work, you know, like this is already a condition set that opens for a new experience. Because the ultimate experience that is going to happen is unknown. And to allow this to happen, there is fearlessness, not guilt present, no guilt present, is a precondition. So I really like this very distinguished comment there. And so I wanted to just put a little attention to duality as it is taught now by teachers that kind of capture all the ancient teachings and also modern neuroscience, like when the knowledge is complete from the ancient times and wisdom teachings to modern time, we can start with duality as being an experience that we seemingly assume as being our reality. And this is the experience here, let's say on the material plane, in a dimension called time space. So it has day and night, birth and death, dry and wet, a coin that has two sides. So we already get closer to the both being closer to each other. It has male and female. It has the opposites. And these opposites are interesting because they create a certain tension. This is in physics. If we have plus and minus, we have like tension happening. Electricity is something between two different poles. So this tension also gives you enjoyment. This is friction that gives you the pleasure of being alive. To experience that, what is exciting about being alive. So as Heath is always pointing out how important it is that there is no, now I'm using the terminology that you all might have heard before, bypassing of phase 2 straight into phase 3. This happens sometimes, this does occur, and some spiritual teachings are pushing into that direction, to skip the earthly, the polarity, the attachment also. That's what I find very important. And in order to get to the other dimension, which is also declared as better. And this is actually a perspective from duality. So this duality is a reality. It might be called a seeming reality or a certain type of perspective. But I also assume all of us on this screen, in this group, do have experiences that are beyond duality. You had them consciously or subconsciously. This is my claim. We can also search them a little bit. And in the moment when you are speechless, thoughtless, and in awe, in front of beauty or love, this might be an experience of non-duality. Non-duality is an experienced state, and we can define it also from NeuroSystemics or from neurology. We can describe it. It's phase 3. And this state is an experience. And in the moment that you try to describe it with words, it loses actually, it's almost disappearing. So it's very often also a state that just occurs and you remember later. How awesome, how much in awe you have been. So I wanted to make this, point this out, that this is not about information. This is also not about knowledge. It's an experienced state. So Heath, I'm giving over to you, or anybody else who wants to comment or question up to here. There's more coming in all directions, but.
Thank you, Rebecca. That's beautiful. And I love actually your strong defense of phase 2, that exciting polarity, how it can be really an exciting moment of experience. Phase 2 is an essential part of our humanity, and that celebration of phase 2 and the adjustment that you're giving to phase 3, as like phase 3 is not the ultimate destination. It's one part of our experience. That's really key. And I love how you laid that out in your description just now. And I'm really curious of how everyone else is doing up to this point with our sharing. If there's any, there was, I think, Beret, you mentioned the hierarchy of gold with a little smiley, another dualism or try. Very nice. Beret, would you like to elaborate a little bit on that?
Sure, Heath. It's just something that came with Rebecca's last wonderful comments about how it's actually not as you say, it's just a different state that you might want to achieve in life, but it's not something to achieve. Like, it's not gonna put the hierarchy on two. The two is reality as we live it, and as we have to define it with meanings according to all the people, according to the definitions that have been coming through history. What can I do? You know, the definitions are already set. The colors are already named, and I can just name my own colors sometimes. That's all I can do. That's reality.
Yeah.
More or less. I don't know if you would agree.
Exactly. It's yeah, I like it very much how you are able also to share your experience, exactly how it is for you. And this is always how it is gonna be for you. And this is your reality. And that's important. It's not also what is maybe read or given to you. This is an experimental journey. It's absolutely important. And this might look very different for each person. So this is why putting it into word or giving out recipes or rules is critical. So this is more of a journey where it's the journey actually starts with longing. We have this longing for something. We have this feeling of not being complete also. So there is a direction. There is something what we look for. This is something I assume now for most people here in this group again. So there is a seeking going on. This is actually the drive behind us now being here again. I keep repeating this because it's not the same for everybody. And also people in our close environment might not agree, and they might not say, I'm looking for something. I'm just happy if everything stays the same, until they find out that nothing stays the same. And one day something is gonna knock at your door that you won't like so much, because we are in the dual field where likes and dislikes are having predominance. It's our seeking goes mostly into comfort or not a door knock coming to the door, safety. And this is, yeah, this is the safety that is a seemingly safe safety. This is not true safety, and we'll understand it also soon. So the longing is set. So this is why we are asking questions. And this is why we also sometimes want to escape a certain level of suffering also.
Very nice. Thank you, Beret, and thank you, Rebecca. I really like how the mention of naming things is like a phase 2 activity.
Mm-hmm.
Because naming things is differentiating things. It's saying yes and no. I like this, I don't like that. And that's our sort of personality structure that is orienting in that direction. As individuals, we have certain likes and dislikes. What I like isn't necessarily going to be the same as Rebecca. And some of the things that we both like, will be the same. And some of the things I hate, she's going to love. And some of the things that I hate, she's going to hate too. So it's like, this is the area of our individualism. And in our work, particularly with our group work, it's really beautiful. We begin a group, and we've got sort of the chaos phase of everyone kind of trying to find some orientation in the group, etc. Maybe not sure about it, and it's a new experience and wanting to fit in, and all kinds of, vectors coming in that create a sense of uncertainty. And then as people show up and enter into the group, there's this expression of individualism, expression of individuality. And that's that differentiation period. That's the dualism that's happening in the phase 2. We're getting we're getting the details, we're getting the focus, the shape, the texture, the colors, the sound, the ideas, the personality. It's starting to take shape. And all of that in the group space is a great sign. Like when there is a discussion, a disagreement in the group, for example, that's a good sign, because we've got individuality happening here. They're like bucking heads. I don't like that, and I do like that. So it's there's a little bucking heads opportunity there. And this is the realm of that phase 2. And it gives rise to this moving into the realm of phase 3, this non-duality phase, where there comes a point where there's mutual respect and love, even, and appreciation for the opposite sides. So that individuality then is contained, but within a holding of acceptance and honoring of the important differences there. So there is a kind of unity that forms. I wanted to share a personal experience that I had today that kind of demonstrates this on a personal level, this experience of non-duality to duality, or duality to non-duality. And so it'd probably take me about 5 minutes to share this with you. I ended up crying. It was a crying moment for me. I've been in my place on my own. My girlfriend's away for the week. I've been working, dealing with different things, trying to get a new computer going, like lots of time on the computer, etc. A little bit of frustration there. I waited 6 weeks to get this computer. Now it's here, and now there's problems. I have to send it back, and they've got to work on it, etc. So it's like there's some underlying frustration. I'm in my kitchen making a smoothie. It's a raspberry blueberry smoothie that I make. It's every day I eat this thing. I love it. And interesting enough, raspberry blueberry smoothie. Already we have the associations here: yin and yang, blue and red, light and dark. You know, these all have an impact on us psychologically. Making my smoothie, I was reflecting on what was it? A session, I think. And there was a theme of sexuality in that session. And this kind of coming out and sharing some, maybe some unconventional thoughts in sexuality. Like there's in like a partnership when maybe you have a fantasy you'd like to live out with a partner, and that you've never shared before. That can be kind of a challenging thing to unwrap, right? It's a little scary. You don't know what's might gonna happen. So I was thinking about that topic, and in the back of my mind, all this is just, I analyzed this later. So I wasn't conscious about this process during it. But I also, in this moment, I was remembering this amazing documentary that I saw just 2 days ago about the discovery of these bones. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. They're the oldest bones that belong to our human ancestry, and they date back 6 million years ago. And it was discovered in Africa, and these French archaeologists found that. And it's just amazing, the documentary that they did to show this whole process. And that was touching to me, just to remember, and the images that they had, they tried to reconstruct how these guys look. They were sort of tree dwellers still. And this bipedalism, the fact that we walk on 2 legs, that's a very identifying architecture of our humanness. Well, it shows in the bones that these creatures actually did walk on two legs. And yet they had fingers that were sort of hooked, which meant that they were living in the trees also. And there's lots of other evidence of how these creatures are a bit different than what we thought before. This discovery has revolutionized the history of our ancestry. So I was thinking about that, and I was thinking of how back then there would have been no shame about sexuality, right? It's just like sex is happening. And however it is, all the different colors it's just happening. So, and I was being touched by the rawness, the naturalness, the flow of all that, the shamelessness of that, and our ancestors long ago, millions of years ago, living in tribes. Actually, they lived in little tribes. So all of that is in my head, right? Then I sit down on my couch. I've got my raspberry blueberry smoothie with my straw. I sit down, I'm taking a sip, and then I look over at I've got this nice screen TV. It's a big screen TV, and it's on sort of this sleep mode. So these pictures, these images are going by slowly, and it was a beautiful picture of a city on the shoreline. Beautiful skyscrapers, right? I don't know what city it was, but I was just sitting there sipping my smoothie and seeing this. And in the background, I could see mountains behind the skyscrapers. Here's the duality in my mind. I'm seeing the city, civilization, and I see the mountains in the back. And my association of the mountains is this natural flow, right? And the image of civilization is kind of a pain for me. And I started crying in that moment, seeing those buildings and seeing sort of the mountains in the background. And here is the duality. I'm liking the mountains. I'm missing those mountains. I'm reaching back to our ancestry of all that free flow naturalness, and kind of resisting civilizations like yuck. And then I just was with my experience. I just let my tears come. I felt my tears fall through along my face and in my beard. And it was, nice, very beautiful thresholds of experiencing those emotions and just watching the city, because this was a drone picture, and so it's slow-mo. So you could see the city kind of going by and the mountains in the background, very beautiful. But I looked at the city as not beautiful in the beginning. After I went through my process, which is that threshold of phase 2 to phase 3, I came to the point where my eyes started clearing, and my tears were drying up a little bit, and I could see the city as a beautiful city and the mountains there as well. Like the two were together. It was one picture, and I could appreciate the beauty of the whole thing. And that really is an example at an individual level of how this polarity, it's really key in being able to see that and honoring that. And whatever process we go through by the combination of those relating, the dualistic nature of those relating to them, it might be, in this moment, it was a little bit of pain for me, a little bit of sadness. I could be with that sadness. I could go through the thresholds there, and then they come together and everything is okay again. It's just one whole picture.
Mm-hmm. This is interesting. Thank you for this story. This is a very rich story to go into. Actually, I want to ask you, what was this moment when you saw the mountains in the background and in the foreground, the civilization with skyscrapers? Was this the trigger for your emotions to come up? This these two sides, or how would you explain this a bit more detailed?
Well, yeah, it's really, you know, all these other things that I explained to you before that moment have something to do with this.
Mm-hmm.
I realized, because, you know, I see that all the time. I look over there absentmindedly, just to see these cool scenes, right, on my big screen TV as I'm in between a session or whatever. And it's cool. I'm loving it. And I sometimes I stop and I just watch. You know, there's underwater images sometimes as well with creatures.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a lot of priming before that happened, that moment of seeing the mountains and the cities. There was a lot of priming of the blueberry smoothie. There was priming of that I had, when I saw that documentary, I was not in touch with my yearning. There is a deep yearning of naturalness in me that our ancestors had, right? And I wasn't really present with that before. So but that was bubbling inside my consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And then the conversation of sexuality. So those things were all sort of, they were little networks, right? Mm-hmm. Inside of my system that were talking to each other. And when I sat down, I was relaxing. And in that relaxed state, I was feeling safe. I was more open to receiving the experience in a deeper way, receiving that image in a deeper way. And then I could settle in somehow and sense this movement of the feeling to arise. Mm-hmm. So I think it was really the preparation of all those things. And of course, it just, you could even take this back 6 million years and even later. Like, I am a system that's representing the universe, that has all the things that have happened before me up to that moment. And in this particular human experience, there's a new threshold that's experienced and integrated.
Mm-hmm. So this was a very wholesome moment and a wholesome experience also, where we can see that all channels have been active. There was imagery, there was meaning because of the documentary you have seen. There was the reality of a smoothie and maybe the taste of coldness or whatever, and so on. So this was a all-inclusive experience. And this is actually phase 3, when all the channels are coming together. I don't know exactly how much Berai is informed about the channels, the different senses and the different channels of perception, when they all are swinging together as a unified experience. This is then leading towards phase 3. Yeah, exactly. I want to ask, I'm wondering, does anybody, can anybody tell us about a similar experience or some kind of experience where you think this could have been phase 3, or this was a spiritual or enlightened moment, or a moment of total freedom, timelessness, ultimate truth, or you know, like something where the time stood still, any kind of experience, anything. And this is why this work, as we do it, is so important, as we have lost the connection to the world. Like after, like Steve, our teacher, says, we didn't have normal since 10,000 years. Normal, like, this is how far we went away from our natural connection to how we actually are, how the reality as being one with nature brought us. And this illusion that we are separate beings is giving us this abusive and that's why we are exploiting people, the earth, nature. We dominate it because of the illusion of separation. And this is why this is not just a fantasy talk, or this is not about enlightenment in that sense, and this is reserved for gurus or very special light figures in history. No, this is for us. This is for everybody. We also do experience it. And this is a natural connection and a natural state. It's just going back to our natural state.
Wonderful, Rebecca. Wow, I'm loving the strength in your words, the passion there.
Just joking.
Lovely. Yeah, that's what a beautiful point. It's our natural state. It's nothing, in a way, it's nothing special, right? It is a natural state. So that's how it really is, but we've just kind of slipped away from that. Mm-hmm. And yet also the phase 2 state is a natural state as well. Mm-hmm. And actually they belong to each other. Without the phase 2, we have nothing to grip onto to reach into the next level of expansion in phase 3. I like the metaphor of a ladder to describe the relationship between phase 2 and phase 3, in that the ladder represents our personality, that yes and no, right? When we do cultivate and embrace, and in NeuroSystemics, we are elevating ourselves. We're doing a lot of self-strengthening, self-stabilization work in phase 2, uplifting work, honoring the self powerfully, shamelessly. Like it's, you know, in a lot of spiritual circles, the ego is the enemy. Not here. The ego is friend. Mm-hmm. And not only that, the ego is a fucking superhero, because the ego has stood up for us in a lot of nasty situations, and it helped us get to where we are now. And of course, it also has its limits.
Prerequisite.
What's that?
The ego is a prerequisite.
That's right. That's right. And so, yeah, you got to have an ego before you're going to lose an ego, right? Phase 3 is letting go of the ego, letting go of control that the ego brings into life, or our personality structure controls our life and creates some organization, creates some structure, like this ladder metaphor that I want to share with you. It's structure. It's something that you can grab onto. Whereas that phase 3 is letting go of the control. You let go of the ladder. And so, as Rebecca is saying, you need to have that structure before you can even let go of the structure. That's exactly the reason why we wanted to do this talk, is that structure is so important to help you feel better out of chaos. But then we want to figure out how are we going to be able to let go of that structure and let go of control and be in that phase 3, where it's feeling good to not have to hang on to the ladder rungs. So in a ladder, you have a rung, and to grab the next rung, you have to let go and reach up and grab the next one. And that is the personality structure. Those are the layer, or these growing thresholds in our systems that we go through in a session. You find that we're going through these waves of experience that might feel new. It's a new thing, new territory, new expansion. That's our learning threshold of our ladder is sort of softening and getting a little bit lighter. And we have done that because we actually grabbed onto the next rung of the ladder. If there was no ladder, there would be none of this, no climbing. And it would just be bleh. Like, you know, the phase 1 is, it just, we stay in bleh, and that's it.
Bleh.
Bleh.
I love your metaphor of the ladder. I'm gonna steal it at some point. It works. Yes.
Please steal away.
I want to open again to our super group. What's up with you guys? How do you feel? Does anybody have to share something? Anybody else with an interesting experience? Or with a question or any type of comment? How are you doing? How's it going?
I do have a comment. Sorry for breaking the silence.
It was not real. It was just...
I know. Heath, you should have been expecting that from me.
Of course. That's why I was hoping you would come.
Okay. I hope you're not going to be cross at me in the next meeting for saying this. I'm just going to be a devil's advocate for one moment, but that's just going to work with the theme of the duality, I hope. If it doesn't, please feel free to say something.
Oh, Bera, I'm so curious now. I really want to hear what you have to say, really.
While I was listening to Heath, and I know he knows how I adore his way of putting things. And I don't say these words to many male people because I don't. It's like we're all females here, and I think he's special to be here. Like he has to bear that specialness to be here. In a way, if you know what I mean. Yeah?
I know what you mean.
I've got the crowd now. Thank you.
I all know.
Okay, let me just be honest. I know he feels very honest when he says that, but going back to the caveman reality of finding the world so raw and so romantic is not for me as a woman. Why? Because I wasn't feeling protected enough in a man's arms. I wasn't sure even if I was going to copulate, I was going to die or live, if I was going to have a baby or not, if I was, going to be able to feed the baby or not. I think the realization that we can be more protected as females comes with prosperity, comes with the world being more organized in our cubicles. But I know what he means. And I know when you say 10 million years ago or 10,000 years ago, we used to be more human. I know, but I still cannot agree with the caveman reality and the romanticism behind that. It's just the devil's advocate that I am, that I have to say this.
Oh no, I so agree. And I think your perspective is super valuable. And it's especially super important that you bring it out because your experience is different. And that picture doesn't make you feel safe. Oh my God, that's so valuable to be shared here. This is fantastic. This is so important. There's no rule, there's no anything where anybody here says it is like this and it's not like that. Your experience is king and queen and master and guru. Your experience. And of course, you not feeling safe in the image that has been created by Heath's pinging, by him sharing something. Something else, or maybe the same thing appears in front of your inner eye. I don't know, but it might be a different window that you look into the world and a different experience and a different history and memory that you are looking at the world. So this is absolutely valuable. Thank you. I mean, sorry, you should talk.
And Barai, that's wonderful. I just second it. It's beautiful that you step in and share your perspective. And I appreciate all the love, the pre-context that you gave. That's very kind of you, very compassionate of you. Yes, and I can only reiterate what Rebecca's saying. if I can look at the same scene like 6 million years ago and imagine all kinds of things that would be terrifying about that, right? You know, I had laser surgery about 15 years ago, right? Imagine if I was back 6 million years ago and I needed glasses, I would not have survived very long. I would have gotten my ass kicked, right? That would not have been a pretty thing. It would not have been this romantic image around, you know, what was happening way back then. So it's so true that, and even as individuals, there is dark and light everywhere. We could find lights for you probably in that time if we sat down and had a longer conversation about it. And we don't necessarily are looking for that either, but there is a light and dark in every single, wherever there's a light, there's a dark, and wherever there's a dark, there's also a light. We each have our individual experience, and even in our own individual experience, what we're saying that we really like, actually there's something we really hate about that too, deep inside. So thank you so much for individuating, enriching this circle, bringing yourself here in such a loving and compassionate way. Wonderful.
So, Bera, if you don't mind, I would like to ask you, what does make you feel safe, or what would be making you feel more safe? What is needed for you to feel?
Last question. One of the last questions unanswered in our private session with Heath was, what's your preference, if you remember? He just out of the blue, kind of. And I was a little cross with him, but I love him so much that I wasn't enough cross with him, of course. And I hate being, if I am dominating here, because we don't have much time left, blah, blah. Please be the judge for that, because we're
okay.
And if I want to answer your question, what makes me feel more secure with the idea of being in the back, like in the caveman times, or now?
Both.
Okay. How can I answer that tough question right now?
Take it with one step. What would make you feel safe? An example.
Oh,
just what comes up first.
Food and shelter.
Food and shelter. Yeah, this is the basic. Let's start from the basics. Yes, wonderful. Yeah. And you are so right. Also, in perspective to like so and so many 100,000 years ago, there is no guarantee for food. This is why agriculture came up and storage of food. So this makes you feel safe. Wonderful.
Which all opened up a bit Pandora's box. We all know.
Yes, of course, in all directions. Yes.
Yeah, smoothie time makes me feel safe.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm wondering, how is this conversation touching the others in our group? Like, is there a limit to it? And yes, there's always this possibility that we're going to start collapsing. We'll start collapsing down into something less organizing, less healthy, less uplifting, less integrating. There's always that possibility. There's always the possibility of going left or going right, and from moment to moment. If I choose to think about some negative thought as opposed to appreciating the flower that's sitting on the table over there, I could add to my turning right and going maybe down a little dark hole, adding to my less resilience, less enjoyment in the moment. Or I could actually choose to be oriented, choose to enjoy that flower, and then take a moment of being orienting, of orienting myself and sensing what that experience gives me. There's always a possibility. It's a delicate dance, right? And this question that you bring is like, what's the limit? I think there's always a limit. There's always like a chance of going one direction or the other. I think one thing about phase 2 is this, in the NeuroSystemics work, we're really encouraging enjoyment and that empowerment of self. And I'm hearing in your question, like, is there a limit to that? Should we kind of be careful about like strengthening the self a little bit and all that enjoyment? Isn't that like a recipe for chaos? Aren't we going to like get addicted and feel dissatisfied in the end? But if we go that path, and it's highly recommended because it's a path that is much safer for our nervous system. We can go the dark path, which is 95% of what's being offered today in psychotherapy and in trauma therapy. We can go the dark path, and we can get through to phase 3 also that way. But it's so hard on us. It's pretty tough. So going this light way is gentler, it's easier, it's softer, it's more pleasurable. And the key ingredient that makes it, that we add to that, so it's not just an addictive cycle that we're creating, is gratitude. Gratitude is the secret sauce for the light side. So we have our pleasures, we have our joy. When we are integrating gratitude into that experience, it allows it to really expand. It expands even more and grounds itself even more. And that allows us to develop even these higher states of consciousness as well.
It's almost like if there's a bird and you want to grasp it and then it's escaping, it's going. Or a shy deer in the forest, you know, like it appears, and then in that moment that you try to go there, it's going, you lost it already. And this is just an again and again invitation to be like in phase 2 of learning the tools, for example, also of meditation, and really in, exploring the inner journey towards, because that's the door, the inner journey, actually the journey through the sensations, that's the door, how to explore, to go deeper and to seek for that what we try to meet, and that's also where we will find it. So this is there's a paradox in it, and this phase 3 is a place of where there's no more control. There's also not so much knowing. So we build up our strength to be actually strong enough to not need to know anymore, because we are entering the sphere of not knowing. This is the ultimate freedom. Freedom means we are not even able to grasp or to name or to frame or to put it into a teaching structure even.
Thank you, Rebecca. Absolutely. And I was speaking to when you get what you want, right? Mm-hmm. But this other part is what happens when you don't get what you want. Mm-hmm. And that's also we borrow this wisdom from Buddhism. It's the mindfulness, gratitude, and the compassion, right? So in our training, in our work with ourselves, cultivation of ourself inside, and in our therapeutic work, we're trying to bring forth this compassion toward when we can't hold the bird that we'd like to hold, like Rebecca mentioned, or to be able to pet that beautiful deer that's in the forest and they're a little bit afraid of us and running away. We don't quite get to it. The compassion toward ourselves of wanting what we want and we don't get it. And then, so that helps us out on that dark side. And the other side is the gratitude for the joys that we do get. If we can hold the bird for a moment in our hand and it spends a little time with us, having gratitude for that experience, that helps us move and grow into this third phase. Both of those are there just for that, just for the polarity. To do this with you.
I really want to hear from you guys. How is it going? Is there any like, don't leave it here, share. This is such an intimate and lovely group. Just share your doubts, your problems, your thoughts, your criticizing us, anything, please.
Just the criticism for Rebecca, please. I'd like only praise.
It's my favorite subject, and I'm so happy to be together with all of you. Really, I mean it, really, from my heart.
I wonder where equanimity state stands. Is it a step prior to non-duality, or is it non-duality itself? I could answer that question, but I'm curious what Rebecca might say first.
You are the Buddhist. You are the expert. Go.
Well, Boaz is the Buddhist. I used to be sort of Buddhist, but I kind of shy away from it. But the Buddhists, they definitely have that all mapped out super clearly. And I take advantage of Boaz's teaching of the jhanas in phase 3, how all those jhanas that are there in Buddhism, they really help us line up the various levels of phase 3. And that's a great question there. Equanimity is, let's say, on a threshold. It's a threshold point, another threshold point, like when the body is rocking, oscillating back and forth, pinging, two sides, the polarity. It's kind of a sign we're moving forward into this stillness in these higher levels of phase 3. Now, equanimity, for those of you who may not know that term, it's an idea in Buddhism where it's a balanced mind. And quite literally, it's when you may have this experience of, like for me, when I'm sitting for longer periods of time, it's been a long time since I've sat and done traditional meditation, to be honest with you. But when I used to do it a lot, I might get this pain in my leg. Almost every single time, actually, when I would sit, I'd get this massive pain in my leg. And hopefully I had some equanimity. If I did not, I would be suffering. But if I was in one of these Vipassana retreats where they ask you not to move, and I had that pain, ooh, that was not fun. But sometimes there was these moments of equanimity, and that is, okay, you feel the pain, but it no longer is painful. And actually, there's this sense of being able to be with the pain in the body and also the pleasure in the body, and enjoying them both. Like the whole thing, you're just with it, with both of those experiences. So that's a little primer in if you didn't know the state of equanimity, and there's a lot more that could be elaborated on that, but that's essentially it. It's the light and dark. You have them both there in your hands, in your orientation, and you can be with both. There is no preference. You have no preference. They're both great. They're both just fine. Maybe just fine is a better statement. They're both just fine. Yes, and so what's happening there is the relationship of the two is getting closer and closer even. Maybe they're even touching at that point. They're not, there's no preference. There's no separation. It's more like a one experience. The oneness comes a little bit later. In the jhanas, the equanimity is jhana 4. And jhana 5 would be spaciousness. So that's a sense where the body, as Rebecca was talking before, where there's a sense, no boundary between the two of us in the session toward the end. It was just like, who is who? It felt like just togetherness. And so that's the 5th level of the jhanas, and the 5th level, you could say, of maybe phase 3. And phase 4, that jhana 4, or level 4 of phase 3, really is, we're getting the contact of those two polarities, where the yin and yang are really the Tao at that point.
I think that was a good explanation. Thank you, Heath.
Thank you, Rebecca. Is there anything else anyone would like to share as we wrap up? We're getting close to finishing here. And then maybe we can figure out how we're gonna finish. Barai has added, if we had 2 more hours, I could bring out the wonderful but improbable expectations regarding spectrum via queer. But the idea of equanimity does really work better with me these days, like everyone else, especially given the political happenings.
Yeah. Yeah.
Barai, I love all the dimensions that you can weave in at one time. You're extraordinary with that. It's lovely. Okay. I must, otherwise I'll get a spanking from Boaz. I want to send you guys our website. I think most of you already know about it. Most of you are students anyway. But here, I just said in the chat, NeuroSystemics.org is our website, and we offer a training in this amazing skill set of weaving through no duality, duality to non-duality, biologically, with all the therapeutic skills, both for your own personal growth and for helping others. And we even teach how to do that in groups, and then in bigger societal structures as well. It's really a fantastic program, and so proud of our students. And it's so beautiful to see you guys here showing up.
If you allow me to add something to why this program, I want to add something, Heath.
Please do.
I have changed my mind a little bit on a subject where, like, maybe you guys know Ken Wilber. He's putting out, like, you grow up here, like in your evolutionary growth, and then you grow up here in your spiritual growth. And first needs to come the evolutionary growth, like from a state of ego to a more, tribal, and then to a bigger tribe, and then to the universal perspective. And I actually see that the spiritual growth has to come along. It shouldn't stay behind. Sometimes I said, if the evolutionary growth stays behind, that's a problem. No, I also think if the spiritual growth stays behind, that this is a problem, especially now that in evolution, like our intelligence is becoming so big. It's going beyond boundaries, like artificial intelligence, building robots, all these things, it needs to be balanced with the spiritual growth. This is absolutely essential at this time, today, on this earth. And this is why I'm really supportive of this training also. Everyone knows I'm in it. So
yeah, Rebecca.
And so we are closing now. Shall we close with one more gong?
Yeah, that sounds very, very nice.
Okay, super.
There was the way you just wrapped that up is wonderful. The last thing that I would add to what you just said, Rebecca, because I'm so glad that you said that, which emphasizes the fact that the 1, 2, 3 is, now I have to share, this is the metaphor my girlfriend has for 1, 2, 3. Phases is a waltz. Mm-hmm. It's a waltz. And Rebecca talking about it's essential that the spiritual part and the human part, you know, that the psychology and the spirituality, they need to kind of do this with each other. What is that? Mm-hmm. That's oscillation, isn't it? Mm-hmm. The whole spectrum of our experience is also, again, this on and off. It is a dualism, or a triism, if you would like, because sometimes we even have to go into the chaos in order to get differentiated in the phase 2, and then to grow and go into the phase 3. So it's like a waltz. That's the metaphor my girlfriend came up with, this dance. You would never take out one of those steps in a waltz, then it's not a waltz, right? It's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And as Rebecca just said, they need to go together in order for there to be a proper, balanced, strong development overall. Thank you, Rebecca.
Yeah, thank you. So true. I like the waltz. Gonna use this.
Yeah.
Thanks to Grace.
Thank you, Grace.
Okay, thank you really everyone. Thank you, Heath. It was a very beautiful evening, and so good to see you all and to meet 1, 2 new people. Super. And I'm asking you again for the last second, a couple of seconds, to find comfort and then just hear the gong. And I'm gonna read a mini poem. It's just 1 sentence to make it an experience instead of just information. I traveled a long way seeking God, but when I finally gave up and turned back, there she was within me. And this is by Lala. Her name is Lala, a mystic of the 13th century. So old. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, beautiful friends.
Bye-bye.